We are the first natively restaked liquid staking token. So the benefit of that is that when you stake with ether.fi and you mint eETH, which is our liquid staking token, it's automatically restaked. You don't need to do anything extra. It's automatically restaked. And you get the actual liquid staking token, which you can then use in DeFi. So you can deposit it into Curve, into Balancer, Maverick. We want to be the easy button. You sort of you just hold the token and use it in DeFi, and everything is sort of taken care of.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad from 4RC. Today's show discusses the recent restaking mania we've seen unfold with EigenLayer, as well as an easy way to earn EigenLayer restaking points while maintaining a liquid token called eETH by ether.fi. In this episode, we'll talk with ether.fi founder and CEO Mike Silagadze about the benefits we inherit by minting and holding eETH as an all-in-one staking and restaking token. But before we do, just a quick word from our sponsors who make the Edge Podcast possible.
Introducing the MANTLE liquid staking protocol, MANTLE LSP, a permissionless, non-custodial ETH liquid staking protocol deployed on Ethereum L1 and governed by MANTLE. With MANTLE LSP, users can stake ETH to instantly receive METH, earn yield and accumulate rewards the longer you stake. METH is the value accumulating receipt token that will give you access to expanded yield opportunities. Stake and watch your yield grow with MANTLE LSP.
For most of us, our crypto journey started with MetaMask. And now with MetaMask Portfolio, we can do so much more. MetaMask Portfolio puts you in control. Use the dashboard to see all your assets and balances across your wallets in one place. The buy feature allows us to buy crypto assets effortlessly with fiat options such as PayPal or credit card. The swap feature allows us to swap any tokens anytime by finding a selection of available rates. The bridge feature allows us to bridge between networks including Ethereum, L1s, and L2s based on the best price and fastest delivery time. And with the stake feature, anyone in a few clicks can stake ETH and earn rewards. Do more in Web3 your way with a safe, simple, and convenient tool that's all in one place. Track and manage your Web3 everything at metamask.io/portfolio.
It all started so simply with CryptoKitties and Maker on Ethereum, but quickly became complex with more applications and many chains. Today, everyone agrees UX issues are the biggest blocker standing in the way of crypto adoption. Introducing AVOCADO. Multi-chain UX redesigned from the ground up. The first wallet to abstract networks, accounts, and gas. One gas tank to pay transaction fees on all chains in USDC, and native access to INSTADAPP's powerful, custom DeFi strategies. AVOCADO, one wallet to rule all chains.
All right, let's introduce the founder and CEO of ether.fi, Mike Silagadze. Mike, welcome to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great chat with you again.
Yeah, really good to have you back on the show. A lot has happened since we spoke with you. I think it was in July 2023. But before we do talk more about this restaking mania, Mike, do you want to give a little more background as to what is ether.fi and what have you all been working on and launched?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'll start with that, and then I can obviously can't speak for EigenLayer, but I can try to give my understanding of that whole universe and restaking in general. So ether.fi, we're the newest liquid staking protocol on Ethereum. There's two things that make us unique. The first is that we're the only protocol where the stakers get to hold on to their staking keys. That's a big deal. It reduces a lot of risk and makes it truly non-custodial, which is important, I think. The second thing that makes ether.fi unique is that we are the first natively restaked liquid staking token. So the benefit of that is that when you stake with ether.fi and you mint eETH, which is our liquid staking token, it's automatically restaked. You don't need to do anything extra. It's automatically restaked. And you get the actual liquid staking token, which you can then use in DeFi. So you can deposit it into Curve, into Balancer, Maverick, Gravitas, Somalia, and many other DeFi protocols that we're integrating with. So I would say a little biased, but objectively, I think it's the best bet when it comes to staking on Ethereum. And then, of course, the other benefit is you get ether.fi loyalty points, so which is great. Lots of people love collecting loyalty points for various reasons. So you get the ether.fi loyalty points, and you get pass-through EigenLayer points. So in other words, when you stake with ether.fi in aggregate accumulates EigenLayer points, and those just get passed on to our users. So if there's any future value that comes out of those points, that will be 100% passed to our users. So I think it's pretty awesome. It's a good way to get exposure to two pretty hot up-and-coming protocols on Ethereum and get staking rewards, restaking rewards, etc. We actually just launched our liquid staking token. We raised our seed round back in March and have been working diligently to get this token audited and implemented and launched, the protocol implemented and launched. And we just launched eETH, which is our liquid staking token, at this point about 3 weeks ago. It's done pretty well. We're at the 75 million in TVL, which makes us a top 50, top 60 Ethereum protocol. It's growing really fast. I mean, we're seeing deposits flow in at one every minute or so, which is kind of wild to watch. And we've got some great stuff down the pipe. Maybe the only other thing I'll say is that we're super bullish on restaking. We understand there's risks and concerns and lots of stuff that's been talked about with respect to restaking. But we think it's just going to become table stakes for liquid staking. We think that's actually where the majority of the staking rewards are going to come from for users, is through restaking. And so one of the ways that we're going to participate in that is not just stopping and building a great staking protocol, but also to start building restaking services. So we've got some things that are in the pipe for that, and we're really excited about it.
One of the things you mentioned there with eETH. So if you mint eETH, or if you were to swap for eETH, I mean, it's very unique what you described, right? Like, am I right to say this doesn't exist elsewhere? Like, if you have Steth by Lido or rETH by Rocket Pool, you have an ETH LST, you're passively earning this yield like you would with eETH, but the part of the product you mentioned there that it's restaked and / would be restaked in the future once EigenLayer is fully live. That is like a one of a kind at this point, right?
Yeah, we are the first ones to do that. I mean, I'm sure others will do the same thing eventually in months or quarters or whatever it's going to be. But yeah, so normally if you take rETH or SCETH or whatever and deposit it into EigenLayer, like those great EigenLayer points, you're locking your tokens. You can't use them for anything else at that point. Whereas with ether.fi, you get an ETH, it's automatically restaked, and then you could put it in Graviton, Mitscry, you could put it into Balancer and get some trading fees and emissions and all that stuff. So you can use the token at DeFi, which was, that was the whole promise of liquid staking in the first place.
Actually, to correct something I mentioned there too, I forget about its RSETH, I think, by KelpDAO or Stater. But this is what drew me into eETH, is the idea that I would mint an ETH LST and then I would lock it up in something like EigenLayer. I totally get it. Everyone's clearly playing the airdrop game there and is excited. And if they're not, they're, maybe there's some like long-term belief that being an EigenLayer will help to strengthen Ethereum as a network with restaking and so on. But yeah, I've never understood. You mint an LST, then you lock it up, and now it's like you've defeated the whole purpose of the LST, despite, again, all these other intentions.
Well, for sure, it's airdrop farming. I mean, I think we're probably allowed to say that. That's the only reason that anybody is, practically speaking, doing it, is they're trying to farm, the potential airdrop. Now, I think it is important to mention, I think, the distinction between two types of restaking. I don't even fully think that's the correct nomenclature, but with EigenLayer, at least, there are two ways that you can restake. The first way, which I would say is the more pure way, which is native restaking. And very concretely, what native restaking is when you're spinning up a validator, you deposit 32 ETH in the Beacon Chain deposit contract, you are setting your withdrawal credentials into an EigenPod, which is a smart contract. And that smart contract, along with a bunch of other middleware software, handles all the restaking magic which then allows it to, to leverage that staked ETH to secure other services. Other services like other blockchains, data availability, Oracle networks, and a lot of other stuff that's interesting things that are getting built. So that's native restaking, and that is restaking kind of like almost like academically as it was designed to be done. The other form of restaking that is available is to take an existing liquid staking token like SETH or RE, and then deposit it into a pool that EigenLayer controls. And then that pool serves as a sort of like slashable security that can then be sort of lent out to restaking services. The challenge with that is it actually introduces both like layers of complexity and a little bit of additional risk, because then the node operators that are running these additional services should have to put up some sort of bond in order to compel them to behave, to not, perform malicious actions. Otherwise, what reason do they have not to just slash all this slashable security? They need to have some skin in the game. I think beyond just their reputation, I think that's probably not sufficient because with MEV certainly on chain, I mean, you could pull millions of dollars out of transactions if you want to be malicious, and you don't care about being slashed. So it introduces a lot of complexity to make that system as sort of clean and robust as like native restaking, and that's the reason we chose to build our protocol the way we did, where we specifically said we are going to be natively restaked. We're not going to just sort of play the game of just being one of a bunch of tokens that you can like put into a pool that has the slashable security and node operators, which may or may not put up a bond. It creates a much more complex thing, because in technically that pool, in a sense, has nothing to do with staking, because anything could go into the pool. Like it's at EigenLayer's discretion. Like they could allow USDC into the pool. They could allow Maker tokens in them. They could allow Dogecoin. You could put anything into that pool. In which case you kind of look at it and say, well, what does this have to do with staking or restaking? You're not restaking anything. You have a pool of random assets, flashable security that then node operators can sort of lean on to secure other services. So I think and EigenLayer is not going to be the only player in the restaking world. Already there's other folks like BlockSwap that are doing their restaking cloud, which is a different approach to it. I hope that the Ethereum world, standardizes on native restaking as the sort of the model, because it creates sort of the cleanest, most robust, most pro decentralization model of restaking, and that's the reason that ether.fi is focused on that.
So if you're newer to restaking and you're seeing all of these ETH LSTs being pooled on EigenLayer, I guess what can we expect when this is all like working as designed? Like, who are the folks who will access that restaked ETH? Like you mentioned some players putting up a bond and behaving and not misbehaving. If you can kind of like dumb some of that down for folks just who are newer to this.
That's right. For those that aren't, deep in this the staking universe, the first restaking service that's going live on EigenLayer is called EigenDA, which is a data availability layer. In terms of why you need it, it increases transaction throughput. That's really what it's for. It allows another blockchain, whether it's an Ethereum layer 2 or Cello or whatever, or some other blockchains or services, to dramatically increase their throughput without increasing costs. Without getting into the weeds of how it works, that's really what it's for. It helps you get a lot more transactions at a lower cost. And so if like a layer 2 or another blockchain makes use of EigenDA, there would be some mechanism of value accrual where, maybe it's if Arbitrum decides to use, EigenDA, some ARB tokens would flow back to stakers who are running this EigenDA software, and that would go back to people who are restaking their ETH to provide security to EigenDA. Now, the way the mechanism works is, you have nodes, just like you have Ethereum nodes. It may very well be the same Ethereum nodes that are running this middleware, this software that provides this service of increasing throughput to another layer 2 or another blockchain. Those nodes are running this additional software and getting this additional staking reward that gets passed on to stakers. And those nodes need to have some sort of bond or some sort of skin in the game in place so that they have an economic incentive to behave themselves, to not act maliciously, to not sort of misreport, I guess, their data. So that's where the restaking piece comes in. The staked ETH serves as their bond to make sure that they are behaving. Whereby if they don't behave, their ETH gets slashed, and so that creates an economic incentive for them to provide a good service.
And then, Mike, with eETH, what is happening under the hood there that allows us to hold a token like we would hold something like our ETH or REITH by Rocket Pool? Because we're getting benefits that we're used to with eETH. But again, I wanted to really call out the fact that it is a very special thing right now that you can hold something that represents a restaked LST and still maintain the liquidity. You could LP with it, use it as collateral, all the stuff that we like to do. So anyways, what's kind of happening under the hood with eETH?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that make it unique. I'll only talk about the things that specifically we're talking about with respect to restaking. Very concretely, you deposit ETH into a liquidity pool. So you put ETH into one of the ether.fi smart contracts. Those smart contracts then spin up validators. They stake batches of 32 ETH into the Beacon Chain deposit contract and create NFT representations of those validators. The withdrawal credentials of those validators are then set to eigenpods, meaning EigenLayer's smart contracts, which create the slashable, the security programmable slashing layer restaking magic. And then in exchange for that, the user gets a receipt token called ETH that, just like our ETH or STETH or whatever, accrues staking rewards, and in addition accrues restaking rewards once those start flowing. And then the protocol as a whole is accruing these ether.fi points and EigenLayer points that will have some utility in the future, and that utility will be passed on to users as sort of a claimable airdrop or whatever it's going to be. That is a trust assumption. I mean, to be clear, like you're making a trust assumption on ether.fi that will, because there's no way to program that in a smart contract. But we've made that commitment to our community, and we've been super clear about it kind of from day one. Does that make sense in terms of the mechanism?
No, absolutely. I think I'm most familiar with the benefits of it because of the fact that, it's what I wanted, out of an ETH LST. I was really struck by, again, the mania that's happened with depositing these ETH LSTs into EigenLayer. And while I'm playing the game as well, just like, everyone, like I'm hoping to participate and earn some sort of like retroactive airdrop from EigenLayer. Like I'm excited for EigenLayer. I think the team is bringing this new value to the Ethereum network that's going to be really important to the future of it. But it is a little frustrating to lose that liquidity. It's if I could maintain all that liquidity, this thing had been stood up for years and I knew it was more battle tested, I might be willing to deposit more. But I'm sure a lot of folks like myself are, playing with a very small amount of restaked or a very small amount of liquid staked ETH in EigenLayer.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there's risk associated with it. I would say not to minimize the risk, because you're putting ETH into smart contracts, and those smart contracts have trust assumptions. EigenLayer and ether.fi smart contracts are upgradable. So the team is doxed. We have lots of incentive not to do anything bad, and they're reputable. I would say both are reputable teams. But like, there's trust assumptions, there's smart contracts. But one thing to consider is unlike, like, let's say you're putting a bunch of like ETH or USDC into a protocol like a Compound or something. Those assets are actually sitting in the smart contracts. Like the USDC or ETH that you put into Compound is actually sitting in Compound. And so if that protocol gets hacked, which Compound is super battle tested, I mean, it's probably the most or one of the most robust, so it's probably fine. But if that protocol were to get hacked, I mean, those assets are at risk. With staking, it's different because when you deposit ETH into ether.fi, for example, that ETH then gets staked. So it then goes into the beacon chain deposit contract. And then I guess you could sort of say it's on the beacon chain in a sense. So it's not that the ETH is sitting in our smart contracts. So if our smart contracts get hacked, there is always like a few percent of liquid ETH, a few percent of the protocol's assets, liquid ETH. They're there so people can withdraw instantly or relatively instantly. So that ETH is at risk, but the 98% of ETH in the protocol is actually staked. So even if the protocol gets compromised, that ETH is not directly at risk. We would obviously detect the compromise, pause the contract, and then upgrade the contract to fix the vulnerability, and then we'd be able to get the ETH back, and user could get it back. So that I think reduces the risk somewhat that people are taking when they are staking their ETH and depositing it into something like ether.fi or I guess any staking protocol, because that, as I said, that ETH actually is no longer held by those contracts. So I think that reduces the risk a little bit for users in terms of how they should think about it versus other DeFi protocols.
Are you able to explain, like, what are we waiting on next with EigenLayer? Because, like, I'm looking at app.eigenlayer.xyz. We'll try to show some screenshots of this. If you listen to the podcast, you can go to our YouTube and watch it there. There's a lot more options here now in terms of depositing those LSTs. Again, I want to call out the fact that, if you're wanting to hold eETH, like, you don't need to worry about depositing that. You just would mint eETH, and now you're actually exposed to that ETH being restaked or deposited into EigenLayer. But you've got all these other sorts of LSTs. We've got at the very top, there's beacon chain ether, which is...
So that's the native restake.
The true native restaking, yeah.
And that's what ether.fi uses. Yeah, I mean, so if you're asking, like,
what's next?
Yeah, so right now the restaked ETH isn't doing, it's just sitting there, collecting points. That's what it's doing. The first service almost certainly the first service that's going to go online is EigenDA, and there's a large number, I think dozens at this point, of services, partners that are chains that are going to be using EigenDA. So it is a very exciting, if you've heard about the excitement about Celestia, I think it's called, modular blockchain, EigenDA is like a competitive thing to that. So Celestia, had a big launch, $1 billion valuation. So EigenDA is like a competitive thing to that. So that's going to be the first service that goes online and starts getting integrated in other blockchains and services. And then that will probably be the first thing that starts, issuing rewards, the restaking rewards. So obviously when that goes online, I think it's on testnet now, then, ether.fi will obviously be participating in that along with others. And then there's going to be other restaking services that come online. So I think I mentioned briefly, like, ether.fi is working on some restaking services. We're very excited about it. We're very bullish on that whole ecosystem, and we want to build like restaking services because we think that that's sort of like the application layer on restaking, and then a lot of value is going to occur to the application layer. And in the next few weeks or month or so, we are going to be talking about, like, what are some of the restaking services that we are building and we're excited about. And we are looking at both EigenLayer and Restaking Cloud as sort of platforms. And we hope that there's going to be a thriving ecosystem, right? I don't think anybody wants there to be, one restaking platform that owns everything, no matter how good and amazing that platform is. We want there to be a sort of thriving ecosystem. And we look at ether.fi as, we would like it to be a sort of your one-stop shop where you just, participate and use this liquid staking token, and you get exposure to the whole universe of staking and restaking benefits.
Nomadic couldn't be here today, but he would kill me if I didn't ask the obvious. Just because you mentioned governance, is there anything else you can share about basically, like, would there be a future ether.fi token? And if there's any detail there you can share.
It's not something we can talk about openly, but like obviously we're exploring a lot of options. We're certainly looking at kind of like early to mid next year in terms of anything happening there. There's a lot to consider. I mean, there's so many different choices to be made in terms of how protocol governance is managed. And we're down that path. I mean, we haven't locked everything down, but we're certainly down that path.
And then if I were going to start to participate in ether.fi, one thing we called out here is I can just mint eETH, and that is at app.ether.fi.
Yeah, just go to ether.fi and like walk through the process. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, these days, because of the Restaking Mania, among other things, it's just flooding in. I mean, like basically multiple per minute are coming in. So it's really exciting and fun to watch. Obviously, we built this thing. We hope people would like it, and it's fun to see it get traction.
And then in terms of DeFi opportunities, any that you'd call out with eETH, I recognize LPs and lending and stuff like that. Some of this could fade with time. If you're listening to this far into the future, like, you should go to ether.fi to find out what's the most current opportunities. But there's a little DeFi tab on the app.ether.fi website. So
yeah, so I think we have 5 that are live now. At this second when we're recording this, which is there's 3 dexes, so Curve, Bouncer, and Maverick. We have Gravitar, which I think just got maxed out, but we're hoping to get that cap increased. So Gravitar is a protocol where you can deposit eETH, and then you're earning your points and all that fun stuff. In fact, I think we've got a 2x boost on your loyalty points if you deposit it to Gravitar. So there's a benefit from creating a Gravitar vessel. And then you can basically borrow GRAI, which is a USD stablecoin, against that asset, and then go and do stuff with GRAI. You could put it into DEXs and other protocols to earn rewards. So that's a thing that you can do right now. We also have a Somalia vault that just launched that has some great incentives attached to it. So that's a fun thing to go do with your eETH. And then we have a whole bunch more that are in the pipeline. We're in the Christmas holiday season right now. So we're trying to push through governance proposals through other protocols to get eETH integrated, and trying to move as quickly as we can. But obviously there's only so much that we can do. But there's a lot that are in the pipe that will be turning on.
Well, this is probably a great place for us to start to wrap up. I really appreciate the fact, we were talking recently about, again, some of the nuances of restaking or like where we are in terms of the development of restaking. And I always appreciate the fact that we can sort of pick your brain. DeFi dead, choking on air right now. But no, really appreciate you coming on, Mike. And so I want to remind folks, first, they can go to ether.fi to learn about ether.fi. They should follow ether.fi's Twitter handle at ether_fi. And then you should follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Silagadze. We'll throw this all into the show notes. If I don't choke again here on whatever's in the back of my throat here, Mike, anything else you'd like to share before you go? And like I said, just thanks for your time today.
I think we covered pretty much everything. Yeah, I mean, if you want to have fun, make some rewards with staking, go to ether.fi, and it gives you a lot of exposure to the DeFi ecosystem. Great, always great chat with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're a talented founder or developer, please consider reaching out to our team at fourthrevolution.capital. And for future episodes of the Edge podcast, please check out our link tree at edge_pod.